we are wrapping this up with a bang because we are having not just one person, but 3 i2I alumni who are coming to share their business models and their storytelling abilities with us today. So I'm going to share a quick overview for those of you who weren't with us in the previous sessions, of what we're talking about today. And then we are going to see these scientist entrepreneurs tell their stories and their business models and how they are using their science to drive real impact. So where we've been so far is talking about specifically looking into one module of the Invention Innovation program at SFU about business models for science-based innovation. And this is part of a bigger program, which is called Invention to Innovation, which has 2 different pieces, one non-credit, working with MyTax, and one credit, which gives you a certificate in science and tech commercialization. So for those of you who are interested, recruiting is happening now. So the purpose of the i2I program is to unlock the impact that Canadian science holds, and realizing that this is a wicked problem, which means it's a multi-pronged issue, but it's really a people issue because we need people who are able to walk between the worlds of science and technology and feel respected and empowered in all of those fields, not to necessarily take scientists and turn them into entrepreneurs and ignore all the science, but to have people who can balance both of those sides and help be translators and take that impact into reality. So this program is based on decades of research and industry experience, all about science and tech entrepreneurship, which, as I'm going to talk about in a second, is significantly different from a lot of the digital technology that we hear about in shows like Dragon's Den and in a lot of the quick-to-market technologies that are so often in the news now. And this program has this unique insight because it isn't about just teaching entrepreneurship to scientists, but it's also teaching what were the things we have in common, creating a mindset shift, and also creating networks. And so it's not just learning about, but it's actually doing. And so this program is based on taking your own science and technology and creating a plan to create impact from it. So what we've been talking about in this series so far is about the difference and also the power of science-based business models and science-based businesses in general and scientific impact. But that's significantly different from a lot of what a lot of entrepreneurship programs are based on, which suggests quick timelines, small investment, easy to pivot, easy to check. And that's just not necessarily true when it comes to science-based innovation. We often hear about these science overnight successes, but they're actually a decade or more in the making. So often we hear about the lean startup model, and that idea is make quick, small changes and test and iterate with your users. Well, if it takes you $100 million to make a prototype, you're probably not going to make 2 in test. So there's a different model that comes along with this, and there's a lot more strategy involved. This may require the selection between lots of different applications. This is the nanomedicine network, and nanotech is a fantastic example of the kind of technology that's radical and generic, can make a difference in applications from power to medicine to water purification to on and on and on. But when we're telling a story, when we're creating a business model, when we're creating a plan, the end destination can't be everything. So how do you choose? One of the things that John Thomas talked about in the very first one of these workshops was that so often it's difficult to find product market fit as a scientist entrepreneur, and looking to match not just this is cool science, but match it to a market need. And that's something that we very much emphasize. There also may be complicated and emerging ecosystems. So one of the things I talked about 2 weeks ago was about how the ecosystems, the partnerships, the players that are involved with commercializing science-based ventures. If you're doing it in a sophisticated way, you probably have a number of different types of partners, a number of different partners, from other university spin-out companies to university labs to government entities to NCEs. And they are evolving and emerging as the technology comes forward. And so these business models are not only high resource and long timeline, but they're also constantly evolving. But with all of this complication comes this power, because these may be life-changing. You're going to hear about from several entrepreneurs today whose technology can save lives and make our world a better place. And they also shift paradigms. These are the kind of technologies that can help us transition for the type of energies we use or how our medical systems work. And so it may take a great deal of resource, it may take a lot of work, but the vision that we're working toward is so powerful. And when we talk about business models, we are not just talking about this is a business, because one of the other beautiful things about the i2I program is that whether you decide to be a scientist entrepreneur, whether you decide to be a scientist that stays in the lab and is wonderful at translating your research into impact, or you go on to work in industry, these skills apply regardless. And what you need to know about business models still applies. So in a nutshell, the business model is the pieces of your organization and how they fit together. So it's the architecture of your business. It's how you gather and deploy resources in order to realize the vision that you set out. But like you're about to hear, it's also the scaffolding for a compelling narrative and how you tell a story that's so compelling that other people want to join in your vision. One of the things that I spoke about last week, 2 weeks ago, was that often a sophisticated strategy for science-based venture is to weave a network that's almost a safety net of people who want you to be able to succeed and want to help you. So being able to weave a narrative that makes other people want to be part of your story and also can help them understand how you are part of theirs. And so it's my pleasure to introduce our alumni panel who are going to do just that. So each person has about 5 minutes, maybe a little bit longer, to give their pitch. And while those of you who signed up and read their bios knows a lot of amazing things to say about our alumni, they are going to say a lot about their company and their vision. So I'm simply going to say that we have, with quick introductions, we have Eric Cheng, who is a PhD candidate in electrical engineering at UBC. We have Dr. Viridiana Perez, who is a multidisciplinary scientist and entrepreneur with a BSc in pharmaceutical biology and a PhD in chemistry from Laval, and also, of course, the i2I certificate. And Dr. Nabil Shalabi, who has a PhD from McGill and 2 postdocs from UBC and Cornell. And they're going to tell you about their business ideas. So with that, Eric, can I ask you to take it away?
Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. And I'm Eric. I'm a current PhD candidate in electrical engineering at UBC, an entrepreneur, and a graduating student in the most recent i2I cohort. And we are also the makers of Isolatrix, the first smart single-cell isolation platform for enabling next-generation genomic sequencing experiments. Why single cells? Cells are the building blocks of all living things and contains the genetic code that defines who we are. Through single-cell analysis, we are able to understand the genetic basis of how our body functions, how diseases arise, and providing us access to insights unattainable with traditional bulk analysis. That's been tremendously impactful in cancer biology, where once an umbrella term such as breast cancer to be treated with chemotherapy and radiation is now distinguished into 5 subtypes based on the tumor's genetic profile, where certain subtypes are known to be more aggressive and less responsive to certain treatments. By providing improved technological competencies for conducting single-cell analysis, it will expand our depth of knowledge, becoming the first step to providing the promise of personalized medicine, where treatment efficacy is maximized and adverse side effects are minimized. Recent advancements in single-cell sequencing have made this process highly scalable and widely available to researchers. But these advancements reveal bottlenecks in the workflow, such as in the crucial first step. This is where thousands of single cells are required to be isolated for analysis without contamination. To put it simply, from what we are hearing from researchers is that they are required to make compromises to their experimental designs, as current commercial instruments are not meeting the demands in both quality and scale for modern genomic sequencing. In essence, holding back the progress of life science, in turn delaying the arrival of the next generation of medical diagnostics capabilities and therapies. This is because in the market today, all available technologies suffer from trade-offs. Microfluidic solutions, such as those from 10x Genomics, are the current industry standard, but they lack quality control measures, impacting single-cell accuracy, casting doubt in the quality of the sequenced output. Others using a machine vision approach, such as those from Scienion and Cytina, provide higher accuracy, but at much lower throughput speeds. We at Isolatrix provide an uncompromising solution offering both speed and accuracy with seamless integration to current single-cell workflows. The Isolatrix is a benchtop cell handling instrument. We are a patent-pending technology and the first to provide a machine learning guided solution capable of analyzing thousands of cells in minutes, while others require hours. We provide valuable quality control information with supporting data, guaranteeing high capture and high single-cell purity. Today, the global market for single-cell analysis is measured to be worth more than $2.4 billion, growing 15% annually. The largest market share is in North America, and the fastest growing regions is in Asia. The largest segment is still in academic and research, making up over 72% of the market today, with the largest field of study in cancer and oncology research, which is our target demographic for our beachhead market, starting locally. We have partnered with 2 local labs with expertise in single-cell sequencing. We've installed a unit of our Isolatrix instrument at the Genome Sciences Center this summer, with a second unit to be installed at the BC Cancer Agency by the year's end. Strategically placing our instruments at these facilities provides us easy access to an expansive network of local leading genomics researchers. Current data indicates a 10x speed improvement and streamlining of the workflow, allowing for larger scale experiments, which was previously limited through either resources or costs. We're currently looking to adopt a B2C business model typical for life science equipment, where we will sell instruments to research labs or facilities with recurring revenue generated through consumables and subscriptions to services, such as to our neural network. However, as our collaborations with the Genome Sciences Center and the BC Cancer Agency progresses, we're exploring alternative business models, such as offering genomic sequencing as a service, as we can offer competitive advantages in both the quality and cost in performing single-cell workflows. We are also actively seeking to expand our team. We are looking for innovators in the single-cell life science field, looking to test our technology, as well as a business mentor to maximize our innovation's potential. Thank you all for your time, and I hope you will join us in bringing smart solutions to the forefront of life science.
That's fantastic, Eric. Thank you so much. And I love how clear both your value proposition is and your business model and the possible evolution of your business model. So with that, I'll ask Viri, can you please share your slides and tell us your story?
Yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Viridiana Perez, CEO and co-founder of Nano Sentinel, and we're developing the world's only portable technology to measure toxic metal nanoparticles in the workplace. And so I'm sure it's no surprise for anybody in this call that nanomaterials are widespread in industry. So this puts a lot of workers at risk. There you go. So overall, in the province of British Columbia, workers earn up to $250,000 an hour from losing time due to incidents, which translates in $47 million spent in workers' compensation. That's just in 2019. So this is all due to exposure to harmful substances. So our solution is to create the world's only portable technology to detect toxic metal nanomaterials from surfaces. This helps us prevent exposure, unintentional exposure from touching contaminated surfaces, getting it through your skin, or eventually ingesting it from just poor hygiene habits. So this is currently what's being done in the field. People use the inductively coupled plasma mass spectroscopy, which I'm sure most of you will be familiar with. It's a very complicated technique. The name is long and processing samples is just as long. It is really hard to use, and it's very prone to errors. So it takes up to 2 weeks to turn around results. Customers need space and resources to maintain an analysis laboratory. This is not something that is available to everyone. They of course need on-site metal quantification, so that's a complication right there. And it's really hard to find qualified personnel that can actually carry these sophisticated analytical analysis. And so they really need something that is easy to use. And so Nano Sentinel is delivering the solution in a B2B product innovation fashion. So our products are a device with consumable sensors, and we paired these with a software license. So this was part of a more holistic approach to this business model, from the understanding that people might not necessarily have the high trained analytical chemist on site. So we want to provide that on our software. And so our users are, of course, the head of health and safety and industrial hygienist. And it's intended to be easy to use also for workers who don't have the training, but also research scientists. So this is, of course, an issue worldwide. So some of the major organizations have already started to work into regulations. Our plan is to look for those regulations and, if possible, help influence these regulations to prepare our device to be to perform at international standards. And so this year has been very exciting for us. With the support from NSERC IRAP, we've been able to build our prototype. We're now working on the software hardware integration, and we're getting ready to test some real samples from our lead client now in August. And we're hoping to release our first product in the fall. And so none of these would be possible, of course, without the team. So we have a very diverse team. We've been able to sort of merge the creative mindset of a designer, the very analytical and structured way of thinking of a full stack developer, and all of my science background. And of course, doing the business parts has been a delight as well. And of course, our advisors are also essential. I think Sarah was very accurate on that. You do need a very supportive network. And so we've been able to get lots of advice and a lot of very good acumen in general from our advisors. And so with that being said, our call to action is to help us keep the world safe from nanomaterials.
Yet again, I thought that the clarity of the value proposition just gets better every time I hear it. And the holistic approach and the approach to the network is so important and so cool to hear. So now you understand why this is an award-winning startup company. And so to give us our last pitch, Nabil, do you want to share your screen and take it away?
Hello, everybody. I'm Nabil Shalabi, and I'm the founder of NANEXE, a venture with a mission to diagnose unpredictable disease. Kidney stones are one of these diseases, which you see here with a stone obstructing the ureter and blocking the kidney. If left unchecked, urine keeps filtering into the kidney with nowhere to go, causing a very dangerous increase in kidney pressure. Doctors treat the obstructed kidney with a thin tube-like medical implant called a urethral stent that you see here being pushed around the stone to allow urine to flow inside and around the stent between the kidney and the bladder. Patients get these stents for weeks or months as they wait for stone surgery, or post-surgery as the kidneys heal, or indefinitely for chronic patients with constant stone recurrence. Urethral stent placement is a life-saving treatment and one of the most common procedures done by urologists today. Kidney stones affect 10% of the planet, yet the life-saving urethral stent treatment has a big problem. Many studies reported that 80% of stented patients experience some form of stent complication, be it pain, infection, or stent incrustation, which are often associated with new kidney obstructions and an increase in kidney pressure, which results in poor patient outcomes. The image here shows an encrusted stent removed from a patient after causing major complications. These stats really tell us that kidney stone patients are truly suffering both before and after they're treated for kidney stones. This is a major problem with significant health and economic implications. Let's consider a patient timeline. A kidney stone patient gets a stent and then goes home in a stable condition. As time passes, stent complications cause a dangerous increase in kidney pressure. This is a severe medical situation that can cause potential kidney damage and needs complex hospitalization and risky stent removal. This is the patient's timeline we see with stents as they are today on the market, because there is no real-time monitoring of the stents without CT scans and x-rays. By the time something is diagnosed, it is way too late in the patient cycle, resulting in worse patient outcomes and significantly unnecessary healthcare costs. Currently, 1.5 million stents are implanted every year, and complications are costing up to $12,000 per patient due to hospital readmissions and work incapacity. This is not including the high rate of hospital liability claims, which can cost anywhere between $25,000 to $1 million per liability settlement. These added costs are reported to be 7 times higher than what would have been if stent complications were diagnosed early. This translates to millions of dollars in waste. We solve this problem by creating a smart urethral stent that can diagnose stent complications early through real-time remote monitoring of patients while they are at home and stable. For stented patients, this will have the benefit of improved outcomes and the comfort of being monitored from home. For doctors and hospitals, this will lead to easier treatment plans and reduced liability claims. For healthcare, we are looking at a potential 7 times reduction in costs from hospitalization. The magic behind the smart urethral stent is a wireless pressure sensor that can be embedded into implantable medical devices, then packaged with a biocompatible coating for safe implantation into the body. For urethral stent, the sensor is placed on the part of the stent that dwells in the kidney to measure pressure non-invasively from the outside of the body. To develop our smart stent, we combine nanotechnology fabrication techniques with RF wireless power technology to create a custom sensing solution that can satisfy the complex requirements that come with kidney implantation, like the strict tiny size requirements, high pressure sensitivity, and long distance communication through the body. Patients are implanted with the smart stents using the same standard and safe stenting procedures, and then get daily scans from home to track and warn the doctors if the kidney swells so they can be treated before unnecessary patient morbidity or hospital liability. The medical stent market in general is enormous. $9.5 billion of cardiac stents are sold per year. Non-vascular stents are $1 billion. Our urethral stents are at $450 million, generated from the sale of the 1.5 million stents. The healthcare costs associated with these stents are in the billions. Our smart stent technology can solve problems in all these markets, creating opportunity to both displace stent sales as well as capture cost savings anticipated from the healthcare ecosystem. We are initially targeting the urethral stent market because of the dire need for improvement in the stent treatment, and because the market itself has a much faster path to regulatory approval as a Class 2 medical device. However, we do plan to tackle these other larger markets in the future. We plan to penetrate the market by partnering NANEXE with a urethral stent OEM like Boston Scientific or Cook Medical. Our goal is to manufacture the wireless pressure sensors at a transfer price of $300 per stent to the OEM partner, which would give us a 50% gross margin. From there, we can move towards Class 2 FDA approval, then enter the hospital distribution chain on the with the OEM partner, where we assume a stent price of $900 per stent, paid for by government healthcare, private insurance, or direct patient billing. In 2018, we had our first traction with Boston Scientific as an industry partner for a non-dilutive government grant at $660K. Currently, we are in the final stages of prototyping using Boston Scientific stents with a filed patent. We then plan to push for FDA Class 2 approval in 2023 towards first revenue. Once that's in place, we can start to push development in 2024 into other stent markets like cardiovascular stents. As for competition, we plan to be first to market and then keep this position by being unique in our stent integration and our offering of early at-home detection of kidney disease. This will give us a leg up over the status quo with CT scans and x-rays, and stent OEMs like Boston Scientific and Cook Medical and others will want to partner with us instead of compete for our IP and specific nanotechnology skill set. Our team can execute. Myself, I built nanotech devices for years at McGill, Cornell, and currently at UBC, and our urology team actively treats patients and runs clinical trials for the stent OEMs. We also have world-class business advisors that can help us bring in new talent to the team. For our financials, we project that our stent sales will translate to 45 million in revenue in 2025. This entails the sale of 150,000 stents compared to the 1.5 million stents currently sold on the market. This large scale up will be directly linked to entering the distribution chain of a urethral stent OEM partner. For cash, we are seed funding now for $2 million and plan for a 5 million Series A in 2023 to complete trials for FDA approvals towards cash flow positive in 2024. Today, we are raising $2 million for a 2-year runway to create a field testable smart stent and preclinical trials. These funds will take us right up to FDA approval. So join us at NANEXE. This is a venture that will make you proud. Not only is there a great profit potential, but we are building the coolest of nanotechnologies that will help millions with debilitating kidney disease.
Thank you so much, Nabil. There's so many good things to point out in that presentation, but one of the things that I love is that you have found a way to talk about the value that you create for all of your partners and then also your customers, doctors, patients, etc. So my first question for all of you is, over the i2I program, how did your understanding of business models change? So why don't I start with Viri? Do you mind if I start with you?
Yeah, I think at the beginning we started with a solution that was just hardware. We didn't understand what the needs of the customer end were. And the more we talked to people, the more we understood that we absolutely had to essentially package my brain in a piece of software. And so that was really a realization. And from understanding more what clients needed, is that we've been able to find ways to capture value as well.
That's a very important evolution. Nabil, I see you have your mic off, so do you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. So really, I mean, coming in, there's a lot of mystery to this process, to say, and almost realizing that what scared me the most wasn't really wasn't really the most scary, really. Like where do we get the money? What about the team? There's a lot of, started out with almost this process demystified the business development, and going through it, it's kind of like you start to understand that this is, it's possible. You can make a business story if you have a good product. So and it's not the stuff that stops you initially and scares you initially is not really the stuff that it's more like you have a good value proposition, you have a good product, and then everything else will come. And as an engineer, and you almost tend to harp on the details that are not the most important or relevant, when if you have a real problem and you have a good product, you can build everything around it. So that's really the mindset, the change in mindset that came in, which almost, if I sum it up, is it demystified the business development process.
That's fantastic. And I love that you went from detail-oriented tech to let's start with the vision and we'll get that right and go from there. And Eric, how about you?
Yeah, so the i2I program has been tremendously helpful in helping me figure out my business model. In fact, as I alluded to in my presentation, our business model is still evolving, but what the i2I program really helped in helping me understand was finding where our value is to our customer, and having a business model that reflects that.
That makes a lot of sense. And I love that you are still open and flexible to finding what that business model is, because particularly for the kind of ventures all of you have, your time frame is going to be significant. No one would expect you to keep the same business model as you continue learning and as your market keeps adapting. And so keeping that open mind is going to be incredibly important. So building from business models as the scaffolding for your narrative, how did your approach to storytelling or to how you pitch change over time? Anyone want to go first, or just work backwards? Sure, Eric.
Yeah, that's a great question. One of the things I really struggled with, and still in the works of refining, is my storytelling. In that, what I found was that working in deep science, especially in, I don't know if it's a problem with life science, if we don't present to to an audience with a similar background, it is very difficult to convey our message and our impact. So the i2I program has been very helpful in helping me simplify my message and conveying in a very, very short time frame.
Absolutely. I get blown away every time I hear you retell your story over time. So
It changes a lot.
I wish that I had taken video and snippets all through the program and to be able to say this is before and after, which we actually have done with Nabil and showed people, but we fortunately didn't do it with everybody. Nabil, I saw you also had your hand up.
Yeah. So definitely, yeah, I have some cringy videos of myself initially doing. Right. No, so I say I really like storytelling, and the business plan is almost like, if I go like to the mechanics of it, almost realizing that there's an empathy aspect to it, to realize your audience, who they are and what they're looking for. So specifically, like what was very useful as well through this program was the access to Vantech and Keiretsu, which is like these pitch networks where real companies come pitch to real investors. And just listening to many of them, you start to get the feeling of what the investors are looking for and what the entrepreneurs are trying to sell. And in that process, you realize that your storytelling almost has to be revolved around believability. So you have to make a story that's believable, that is relatable to the investors in a believable way. So every slide you have to go through, you kind of, I went through this exercise myself. Every slide I say, what if nobody believes anything I'm saying on this slide? How can I make them believe that my problem is real? How can I make them believe that the product is real, that the market is real, that the market is good, so that it's large enough, that my financials make sense, that so going through the process and going through really over and over again. This is maybe the, I don't know, 30th version of this presentation, just because it has to keep refined. And every time you get questions, you kind of start to realize, oh, maybe I didn't relate very well in that topic. Maybe they didn't believe me there. What can I do to make it more believable? Like things like the right statistics for the problem, the product, hopefully soon, a video of the product, stuff like that. That's coming up in the next version, you know. And I could see, so it's more like every time you pitch, if your story doesn't evolve, you have a problem. It has to evolve. Yeah. So because every question you get is one item somebody didn't catch, or so I'd say it was, you know, extremely helpful, like going through it, presentation ability, storytelling ability, making a believable story. It all fits and definitely evolved over the course of this program and beyond.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. I don't think when a lot of people hear science commercialization, they necessarily think communication skills, storytelling, and yet, as you said, it becomes one of the most important parts. And Viri, how about you? You've won multiple competitions doing this. So what have you learned with this?
Yeah, it definitely was a lot of arm bending on my co-founder, one of my co-founders, Celeste. She really had to force me to say the word toxic, because at the core, I'm still an academic. There's an aspect of me that's still an academic and an educator, and I do not enjoy triggering fear because I don't feel like there's sustainable action triggered from fear. And so it really challenged my fundamental values, but it also helped me understand that it was what I needed to do in order to communicate the urgency of the problem. And so that was definitely a lot of arm bending. So and that's how we've been able to actually communicate the issue and being able to win awards. But not only that, it also started with me communicating to my team and my mentors what the idea was. And so that was definitely, I think, the biggest shift from just talking about the details of the technology, how awesome it is, to where it can go and how it can help others.
I think that's also critical learning for so many scientists, entrepreneurs, that idea of, we're told in academia, don't overstate things, just say everything you can prove. And your vision has to be something that's compelling, and it's not wrong. It is absolutely backed up, but you don't want to feel like you're dramatizing something. But at the same time, you need to find ways to make it clear that this is the problem you're solving. Why don't we talk just a little bit more high level about the i2I program? Why would you recommend it to this network and the people who are watching? What did you get out of it? Nabil, sure.
So am I assuming, right, that everybody here, like most of the people here, are scientists, are people in research? Is it right? Or
so there's related to research, there's industry, there's academics, you've got the whole gamut in this network.
So really, if I want to put it from the perspective of a science academic, because a lot of what we do in academia, I've been in academia for a long time, many years, and there's a lot of chasing of proof of concept. Say, I want to make a proof of concept device, proof of concept idea, algorithm. But one thing you will realize from this, which is that sometimes these proof of concepts are a little bit shy of a working prototype for a business problem. So you're almost defining your problem a little short of where it needs to be defined. I'm not talking field testable version where you can take it out and start selling. I'm still talking working prototype in a research phase mentality, where you're just, sure, there's patent publication is in play. There's a lot of stuff going on. And then a lot of it, you see a lot of the work going on a proof of concept basis, where you're setting design requirements, engineering requirements that will end you with some proof of concept. However, the working prototype is one step further, where it's satisfying some customer needs, some real problem requirements. So like patient needs and stuff like that. And those requirements can be different from a proof of concept requirement. So I see that a lot in academia, where even myself in publications previous, where we stop shy of a working prototype, and it's not because we don't have the ability. It's just because the vision stops there. It stops at a level where it's not properly defined for commercialization. And there are steps beyond that. You can get capital, and then you can make a field testable version that can take you out into the field, and you can sell and stuff like that. That's further. But just the idea of creating working prototypes that satisfy commercialization needs, this program is massive for that. Is massive. So even if you don't want to start a business and you want to do research only, or you cannot not benefit from this. Like it'll focus your needs, it'll focus your thinking, it'll focus your research, and it'll actually give you an option to commercialize. So I can't recommend it more. I mean, it's life-changing.
Thank you, Nabil. And I love how we have this theme of knowing your audience, because the first thing you asked is, who am I talking to? How do I sell this? So clearly that has been a culture shift. Eric or Viri, do you want to go next?
I think I can't really succinctly say everything that was beneficial about the item, because all of it was helpful. But I think, Sarah, you even touched upon this in your introduction. The most important message that I got out of it was that there's a different path that deep science entrepreneurship works, other than, I think the term you used was fast tech, where there is a long development cycle in our field of work, and it requires very different approaches to commercialization. And this is very different from what I've heard from others about entrepreneurship, where they are looking to quickly put something on the market and maybe look for an exit. But I think understanding that bringing something from lab to market is a very different pathway, that already gave me the correct mindset to be in the i2I program and really get the most out of it. But yeah, everything else was great too. But I think that was really the gear that really clicked everything together.
I'm really glad to hear that, because that is something that we don't talk about enough in a lot of like the widespread entrepreneurship circles, is that science and tech commercialization is significantly different. And realizing that you displayed these different business models that you're looking into, there's a point in a business where a perfectly valid question is, should I be in the lab right now or should I be starting a business? And sometimes the answer is be in the lab for a while. There's a whole bunch of grants you can get as a lab. Like, don't commercialize yet. Like, take advantage of all the other resources you can get. We talked last week or the week before, we talked about the idea of exploratory partners, understanding that there are some people who want to help you explore and take advantage of that if you can. So having those aha moments, and also knowing you can tap into these ecosystems like NMIN to help you, it's a huge aha moment for a lot of people. And Viri, how about you?
Yeah, for me, it was really a radical change. I was already at the end of my second postdoc, and I wasn't really satisfied with what I could do with my skills as a researcher. And so pursuing an academic path wasn't enough for me anymore. And being through the i2I, for one, helped me understand that business isn't that evil. You can actually do good with business.
Yeah.
And yeah, it completely changed my view of that. And just it helped me learn to use my skills to help people in a more meaningful, more impactful way at a larger scale than if I would have stayed in academia, in my opinion. And the reason I would recommend this to everybody is that whether you want to start a business or not, understanding what the value of applying your skills to a different environment is just priceless. And so since I finished the program, I think about every 6 months, I recommend someone in my network. So yeah, I definitely recommend you to take it.
I'm so glad to hear that. And I love what you said about that. Learning, one of the things you learn is business is not evil. If you want to make an impact, you need to be able to, you might not want to profit significantly off of people's pain, but at the same time, you do need to create these models where you don't go out of business while you're trying to take that pain away. And so that's one of those places where it's actually science and business can very much be in harmony. So Vera, you kind of started down this path, but if you don't mind, I'm going to sort of reframe the question and say, what have you learned about yourself in i2I? How's your mindset changed? Because granted, I've heard you talk about this once before and it was beautiful. So I kind of want to ask you again in front of everyone.
Yeah. So I actually discovered that I was always an entrepreneur and I didn't know. And I never really fitted well in academia. So that was actually a big discovery. For me, entrepreneurship has really been the opportunity to use all of my skills, where I was not just supposed to be studying one area of chemistry, but actually being able to interface with people in other disciplines and create something together, and then see directly the impact of that. So I think probably, I don't know if Sarah is referring to the curiosity aspect of it.
Yeah.
Because the first time I heard about entrepreneurship, I was essentially out of curiosity, out of a workshop when I was doing my PhD. Ended up in a workshop. I was like, what's this word about? Like, what is this? I'll just go. I have extra time. And I ended up like, when they read the definition, I was like, well, I think I'm a bit like that. So it was very much a discovery of myself and where I could take my skill set after that.
So journey of self-discovery. That's fantastic. And I've also heard you talk about going, I was a scientist. It turns out I was an entrepreneur. It turns out I was a change maker. It turns out I'm all of them. And these things aren't mutually exclusive. You have this, person who wants to build toward a vision and make change and make impact and knows how to do it. And that and also wants to advance science. And that's one of the other things that's so cool about science business and makes it harder, is you're at the same time trying to advance science and advance impact and create business, and you bring those two things together. And it's harder, but as we know, harder things are often the most powerful things. So And Nabil or Eric, you want to talk a little bit about your journey of self-discovery, mindset development?
Yeah, I can go. I had before coming into this, I've kind of been working on this thing in my head where I say, what does it take to make a successful project, right? And since then, I've been building on it with this program. So initially, it started out with the idea of, to make a good project, no business involved. You need vision. You need doers, people who can get the job done. You need accountants, people who keep track of everything. And excuse my language, but you need an SOB, somebody who's able to push back. So this is what I came in with to this program. It's knowing that I need these 4 skill sets. It doesn't have to be just you. It can be a combination in the team that can bring this all together. So since I've come to this, I've built more into it, saying that you need a salesman. This is more than, it became more clear than ever. The storytelling and the ability to sell your ideas, even up the chain, up to your supervisors, I see a lot of people get frustrated, oh, my supervisor never listens to me. So salesmanship, definitely something that built in this program. More to it, politics, realizing that politics is the thing and you have to deal with that as well. And don't take it so personally. It's a lot of politics around creating a business. IP, who's this, what's that, licensing. It's just understanding that it's another problem you need to solve for. And then actually one part of the program was very specific that kind of really was very helpful. As well the management part of the program with Terry, I think. Mm-hmm. That also was very good because it also made me realize that you need another type of skill, which is, I still haven't been able to put a name to it, but I can't call it like a therapist, somebody who can keep the work healthy, the work environment healthy, the work, people feeling okay, people feeling happy while they do the job. So I'd say, like, how did my mindset build? Like major building abilities in salesmanship, understanding more about politics. That's something that was tough for me. Understanding how to create a healthy work environment where you don't stifle creativity, stuff like that. So this all built by thinking about business, bringing business into the story, and definitely did a lot of shift had a big shift in the way I work.
That's fantastic. And you became a therapist, which I would usually call that leadership, but I will tell Terry and ask her what leadership/therapy is. And
she didn't say that. It's still kind of in my head. I still haven't been able to.
How to create, you're absolutely right. How to create a culture where people can thrive rather than, Vera used the word toxic. How to do that is incredibly important. And Eric, how about you? What was your journey of self-discovery in the program?
Yeah, so, being the most recent i2I cohort, I think being an entrepreneur or being in the mindset of an entrepreneur is still something that is very new to me. And basically, I think Viri and Nabil basically said everything. You just become a bit of you just have to do a bit of everything all the time. But yeah, like I guess, yeah, they nailed it. I think everything, they covered a bit of everything.
Well, if that is us covering everything, I think it's perfect timing to say, thank you so much to our panel for telling us your stories, sharing your journey toward realizing your visions, and for being such amazing representatives of the program. For those of you who are interested watching the video, both the MyTax version, non-credit version, is recruiting and starts in October, and the credit one that is in person in BC is also recruiting.